The Eras Tour has officially kicked back off this weekend, so it seemed like the perfect time to list out my favourite Taylor Swift songs. It's been one that I've been wanting to tackle for some time, but hadn't got round to it, and also was slightly hesitant of the fact that the Swifties might come for me if I don't have this song at number 7 and this song at number 3, and oh my god, they're gonna kill me. We're all aware of how rabid the fan base is, we're all aware of how insane it is, how purely insane it is. It's like a friggin' religion out here. Oh my god, they're insane. But we will hopefully avoid all of that and smoothly get through it. Because at the end of the day, with all of that aside, take away all the discourse, take away all the drama, take away all the X's and the stories behind it all, and the tabloidness and the camera panning to her at every Super Bowl event, all that kind of thing, all of that, take all that away. If you just remove all that and don't get pissy about all that, she's a good artist. She's a good artist. She's made good albums, really good albums throughout her career. She's made lots of great songs as well, and I just want to focus solely on that and celebrate that part of her artistry, because she is good. She is very good. And for a mainstream artist to be so fixated on the details, to actually genuinely put effort into songwriting and writing songs that mean something, is kind of rare in the modern day. When you look at the 2010s and the 2020s, a lot of the popular music hasn't quite had the same sort of meaning to it, I think, as past generations have seen, you know. And I think that's generally why a lot of older people just think all music is bad now, which they're wrong about. But I think looking at the charts, when you see what's been kind of at the top of the sort of like pecking order in the mainstream for many years, a lot of it kind of has been pretty basic, has been dumbed down. It doesn't make it bad, but still, there isn't really many songwriters in the mainstream that really put that amount of effort into the writing like Taylor Swift does. We've started to see a little bit more come through, Olivia Rodrigo being a good example. But yeah, I think Taylor Swift is representative of an actual artist in the mainstream. And I think she's a good one. She's not one that I think, you know, drops amazing music with every album or anything like that, but she's certainly got more than enough songs that I think qualify for a list like this. And yeah, I want to celebrate the greatness of the best of her catalogue. So before I get into it, I'm going to do 10 songs. I'll give you some honourable mentions as well, and make sure you're supporting the channel, subscribing, watching more videos, watching more top 10s, sharing the videos around. That would be wonderful. If you're really feeling generous, support me over on Patreon as well. That would be great. Keeps the channel going, keeps videos like this consistent, and there's nobody more consistent in the game than Not Real Music. So enjoy the list. Hopefully you agree with my picks. Let me know in the comments what you think the best songs, what I should have had in the list. What do you think of my list? Let me know. Let's go.
There goes the maddest woman this town has ever seen.
At number 10, we've got The Last Great American Dynasty. Probably no surprise to anybody that keeps up with my music opinions to see this in the list. I've always said this is one of her best songs, and I still stand by it. I think the Folklore era was a really great era for Taylor Swift, where she just really tapped in to like full-on songwriter mode and gave us some really interesting stories, really put huge amounts of effort into the writing. And I think this is a really interesting story that I don't think really anybody else in the world would even think to write about, to be honest with you. And I think that's one thing that Taylor Swift has the edge over a lot of other artists. It's that just coming up with something that maybe her peers wouldn't really think to write about or really think to go into detail of. And I think this song is really well crafted in that sense. Folklore generally just highlights some of her best aspects, something I think's been missing on her last couple of albums, which is sad to see. But you really are getting some of the best writing of her career on this album, and this is a great example of that too. Very much obviously inspired by the Aaron Dessner production as well. Like, this feels very much like an obvious National song, and I think anybody that pays attention to the band The National and listen to this album, you would hear a lot of those isms coming through. But I think this is one of the best examples of it, because this instrumental could really fit onto any national album and it wouldn't be out of place at all. It has a bit more of an indie soft rock drive to it. Really love the vocal change as well towards the end of the song, where she kind of lets loose a little bit more. Love the way it kind of builds so subtly as well. Really nice subtle build. Every time you get to like a verse or a chorus, it just kind of increases a little bit more in the energy. I think it's a really great song. Has to be in the list for me. See, the Swifties can't get too mad at me, because I'm going to be picking out some deeper cuts for this list that don't get the same appreciation or recognition as I tend to see other people give. And I Know Places has got to be up there with one of her most underrated songs ever, with such an acclaimed album that is very much considered her best and most successful album. I think that's pretty uncontroversial to say. This song really does not get much spoken about at all. Of course, all the singles were huge, they get spoken about, absolutely. And then even a track like Clean, I see more people obsess over than this one, really. But yeah, I Know Places is absolutely stellar song. I think this is one of the most explosive songs on the album. The instrumentation is just excellent. Vocals sound lovely as well. And even the theme of the song I think is really cool too, with the kind of like hiding from the paparazzi and basically just kind of trying to run away from all of the public spotlight and just, you know, showing your partner or your lover a place where you can go that only you know, that would take all of that away, and you just get to be yourselves and have a normal relationship that everybody else would get, really. Yeah, I think it's really cool. Kind of like the metaphors are a little simple with, like, you know, the paparazzi having guns and they're like wolves and foxes and that kind of stuff. It's a little simple, but it's executed really well. And as I say, just how the song sounds, it's so huge, so anthemic. The chorus just absolutely smashes. It's fantastic. Do not know why I don't see this on more top 10 lists out there, because I think it's easily up there with her best. I think it would have been criminal to not include something from Speak Now in a top 10 Taylor list, because this might be like the general cult favourite of her discography, and honestly maybe you might be disappointed to not see more Speak Now on this list, because this is going to be the only song from it. But I do think Enchanted, my friends, Enchanted is a bloody good one. This is fantastic. The instrumentation sounds really raw, and just has this like kind of rugged feel to it as well. Like the drums, just everything about it just feels like it could be just like an indie band putting this together. But of course it's Taylor Swift, who's a much bigger artist than that. But I just like the kind of the natural organic feel of this track, and really this whole album actually. But yeah, love this track. It's really got a magical feel to it as well. Of course it kind of has to, because it's called Enchanted, but it does really have this whimsy to it, which I love, especially in the vocals. It sounds so innocent, it sounds so free. It's a really wonderful track in that sense. And of course the lyrics I think are really stunning too, just very much being so infatuated with somebody that you're just so taken aback and you're blushing at the thought of being around them. I've even heard that this is apparently about the Owl City guy, which I find hard to believe you're that infatuated with that guy. Let's be real. Come on, is he that great, really? But it doesn't matter who it's about. It's just, that's just the kind of gossip that's surrounded with the song. In case you haven't noticed, I do not give two shits about that kind of stuff. I'm just here for how good the song sounds. I'm just here for how much I like the song. All of that drama surrounding it will not be included into my general overall thoughts of these picks, as I think it shouldn't be, really. It's about the songs, right? But even still, you separate that, and this is a really wonderful track about just kind of appreciating all of those details about somebody and just outlining how being in their presence can really make you feel. I think it's a really beautiful song. And she is singing on this song. Like, she isn't singing. She is singing. She is singing. Name one song in the past few albums where she's sung like this. You can't. I don't know where this has gone from her discography and her writing and her style. But everything's so low key now. Everything's so flat. Everything's so whispery and kind of like just now on her albums. Like, she hasn't sung like this for years. Where did this go? Where did this go? Bring this back. Stop trying to be Lord, Taylor. Stop trying to do the Lord thing. Bring this singing back. It's amazing. Another mention for Folklore in my top 10. And again, if you keep up with me, there's a few videos now where I've ranked songs in a tier list for the number ones of the decade on Billboard so far. I praise the song to high end there as well. There's another video as well out there that I've done where I've really praised the song. Yeah, I think it's a great track from Taylor Swift. I really do. I think it's, again, adding to that beautiful focus on the writing that I think has again been a little bit lost, or we've not quite seen as good in other eras of Taylor Swift as we did on Folklore. Really honing in on her craft, and shows how good of a songwriter she is, like with all of the discourse and with all of the drama, and how, you know, there's all things kind of attached to Taylor Swift. One thing that gets lost is that when she's locked in, when she's really locked in, she's a good writer, and there's some really great, beautiful lines on this track. The piano sounds wonderful on this one as well. It really makes you just sound like you're walking through an enchanted forest the whole time. Of course, like some of the one-liners that stand out as well, where she's like, when you're young, they think you know nothing. There's so many great little one-liners on this. Just a really stunning track. And yeah, again, when she kind of hones in on those details and fixates on the writing, I think she's at her best. At number 6, we've got Lover, which is the title track of Lover, obviously. And if there's one song that captures how an album cover feels, I think this is a good one for a conversation there. Like, there's always conversations you see, like, what's this one album that sounds like the album cover looks? And I feel like this song is very much that. It just is so bright and lovely and full of just this vibrance, and I think this track really captures that. It's got this kind of like lo-fi quality to it as well, which I really like. It sounds really humble, sounds really grounded, and her singing is just adorable on this one too, and the bridge is great. There's lots of great qualities to this one. I think people might be surprised to see this in the top 10, but even when this album came out, I always said this was easily the best track. With an album that's full of songs that are going all over the place and don't really commit to one style, the album really should have just sounded like this. Like, this should have been the overall vibe and the aesthetic of the album, because it's exactly what you'd expect when you look at the album cover. Same with The Archer too. Like, though, this album should have sounded like those tracks, and if she really committed to it and didn't make bloody songs like Me, then I think this could have been a very good album. But sadly, I think Lover stands out on a mixed bag of an album. We are into the top 5 now, and Style makes it, and this is where I'm gonna get jumped or something. No, I'm gonna get beaten up or something. I'm gonna get decked, because it's the original version, and it's got nothing against Taylor Swift. It's got nothing against her kind of journey, her adventure to take the power back and have the ownership over her albums. I think all of that was respectful, okay? I'm very much on board with that. Bloody, I have a music channel. Do you think I'm not on the side of the music creators? Do you think I don't have issues with record labels and sleazy contractual agreements? I've been doing this for like 7 years, guys. I'm very much on board with Taylor's vision with all that. I'm siding with Taylor with all that, right? But the remaking of Style isn't that good. It just doesn't sound right. Jack Antonoff needs to stop. He is a criminal, and he needs to stop, because that production isn't the same. It doesn't hit the same. It doesn't hit the same. Max Martin had it locked in. Max Martin had it right. And it sounds fantastic, and that's why I'm picking this version over it, okay? This sounds like pure pop perfection. so good. The synths are incredible. It's immaculate. The way it's produced is just to die for. This is the one right here. It's this style that lives on, and it's amazing. It's amazing. It always was. It always was one of the best pop songs of that year. It always was one of the best Taylor Swift pop songs too, and always was one of the best songs on 1989. It just always was. And in fact, we may as well call it the best song of 1989 because there's no other 1989 song on this list now. So yeah, it's amazing. Again, what it's about, I think it's about Harry Styles. I don't really care about that, but the chorus sounds fantastic. The lyrics are really clever too. Yeah, it's wonderful. I've looked at a lot of lists before making my own, and there is one song that is at the top of every list, every Taylor Swift list, every single time. It is very much the favourite amongst every song she's ever made. And those lists haven't influenced my list at all. I was just curious to see what people generally thought her best songs were. And yeah, of course, this was going to be in my top 10. It's at number 4. It's not quite a number 1, but I fully get it if this is your number 1 favourite Taylor song. I really do get it. All Too Well. Peak Taylor Swift songwriting. This is the peak right here. Because, good God, does she give us incredible amounts of detail in ways that I just don't think her other peers and other songwriters, again, in the mainstream, are really capable of doing. And that's what separates her, I think. That's what gives her the edge. Because I'm not a girl, obviously, but I can fully get how a girl could hear a song like this and pick out those details, the scarf, the photo album, all of those like really specific things that she always writes about in her music, and for girls to also get, because they fixate on those things as well in relationships. They fixate on those things and will never forget them when it comes to breaking up with somebody. And I just think that is why Taylor Swift has a chokehold on so many girls across the world, really, at this point. Yeah, it's peak writing here, that you just don't get breakup songs written like this very often. It is just that good. And while it has become a bit of a cliche, a bit of a stereotype with Taylor Swift to always write about her exes, always write about her breakups, and that stereotype exists for a reason, if we're being honest. There were loads of those songs about Matty Healy on the most recent album, and I just couldn't care about any of that. I couldn't bring myself to give a shit, to be quite frank with you, about any of that, because when she has songs like this in her discography that are just so much better, are so much more powerful, are just so much more detailed, and like to the minute detail, to the granular, you just think, well, she's never going to make it as good as this, so she may as well stop trying now, because it just can't get better than this, really. But there are still 3 songs that I like more than it, and the fact that this is the first song from Red is no slight against Red, by the way. You'll be seeing a bit more Red coming up. Before we get to that, though, I'm quite happy to report to you guys and call this her 3rd best song ever. And I don't want to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy for a minute. From the very get-go, I loved this song. I thought this was fantastic from the moment it came out. And I have proof, because I have a video on this channel where I reacted to it. Because it was kind of like a promotional single, but it wasn't an official single. And how anybody didn't pick up on this being a main single, I will never know. What the hell happened to this album? Who thinks You Need to Calm Down and Me are lead singles? Like, what? You've just got to wonder, like, who is making these decisions? Did Taylor decide this? Has she got no taste? Like, of course this song has had a resurgence, because why didn't it get big when it came out? Of course it's had a resurgence. It was always bloody good. And I always liked it. It was always the best song on the album for me back in the day. And yeah, this is just pure pop magic to me. I think it's absolutely fantastic. The instrumental is just so sugary. It's like a sugar high. That chorus hits like crack. I don't even do crack, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's just fantastic. It is so good. That bridge is amazing too. You got to respect Taylor Swift for keeping the bridge in pop music, because a lot of pop music nowadays is pretty straight to the point. It's pretty punchy. You've got like, what, 2 minutes 30-ish to 3 minutes-ish. That's kind of like the average length of a pop song now. And that isn't enough time to include a bridge. So there's basically no bridges in pop anymore, really, to be honest. But Taylor Swift never took that out. She always kept the bridge. The bridge is always in the music. And she is bloody good at doing them. She's bloody good at doing them. To the point where she had to like get involved in some lawsuit with Olivia Rodrigo because one of her songs sounded like it had the same bridge, which I still don't get. I still don't hear that comparison really. But anyway, that's how good at bridges she is. Other people are making bridges that sound like her bridges. So yeah, it's a great track. It's really great to see this become one of her biggest songs now. I'm not sure you could call it her biggest, although based on streaming numbers, it is quite far and away the biggest song she's ever put out. But is it big? Like, the more people know this than Love Story, the more people know this more than Shake It Off. I don't know the answer to that question, but I think if there's going to be one song that defines Taylor Swift, I would love it for it to be this one. I really would. I think it's really, really good. Well, I did promise a bit of Red, and I delivered, didn't I? Because this is number 2, and it's so close to being her best song. I flip-flop sometimes. I do wonder if I like this one more, but ultimately my number 1 I'm happy with. We'll get to that. But yeah, State of Grace is a very, 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 very close number 2. If this was your favourite song, I'd be all more than okay with it. State of Grace is excellent, and when I had to explain myself earlier with the Taylor's version not being the pick, I'm going to have to probably do that again here, but this one seems quite easy to explain without sounding like a music snob, which maybe I sometimes do. I don't mean to sound that way, but you've got to listen, man. You've got to really listen, because the drums on this original version are like arena sized. They sound fantastic. They hit so hard. They hit that spot. They pulsate. They're so good. And when I listened to the Taylor's version, I was excited to hear it because I really love this song. And I just couldn't believe my ears. The drums don't sound the same. Listen to the difference. Listen to them back to back. They sound so hollow. They sound tinny. They don't hit right. But there is a huge difference in how you can make sure the recording quality of a song is right, because these two versions are so polar opposite to me, and yet the only thing that's different is the drumming. But that can change everything, and it really carries this song. That drum pattern is fantastic. The way this song kind of like moves in such like an elegant way, it just really like floats. Her vocals just glide so nicely. It all sounds so amazing, and then the whoa that comes later on. It's so good, man. Really, really great stuff. Love this track, and yeah, could easily be number 1, but for me it just isn't quite there. But yeah, even the lyrics I think are really good too. I think that its simplicity on the chorus really works. The vocals just kind of like drag out, but it sounds really nice. She elongates the notes, but all she's really saying is, I never saw you coming. That's basically what she says. But I like that about it. I like how simple it is, and she lets that linger for so long, because sometimes you can be surprised with people entering your life and you weren't expecting it, and you weren't expecting to develop something with somebody, and it comes at the most unexpected times. And I think that's something that she really captures beautifully on this track. Great song, amazing, and really close to being number 1. Before we get to number 1 though, I'm going to hit you with some honourable mentions, as I like to do. I'm going to give you 5 songs that could have made the list, and I know there'll be some songs that people might have expected to see. It doesn't mean I don't like them, it doesn't mean I don't think they're good, but for me personally, these are just the ones that I've picked. Of course, this is just a personal, not real music list, as ever. These lists can only be. I don't speak for everybody, so if you are got an itchy leg, if you are expecting or hoping to see something, let me know what you would have liked in the comments. But these are my picks. Invisible String. Really have grown to appreciate a lot of the tracks on Folklore. Invisible String is one of them for me. Really love this track. Really, the plucking of the The guitar, I think, is absolutely lovely, and the sort of like idea of something kind of like, you know, attaching two people together is really cool as well. It's a really nice song. Like I say, I think her most recent albums have made me look back on Folklore and think, you know what, kind of miss that detailed songwriting. I don't think it's quite there on Torture Poets or Midnights. It just didn't quite hit the same for me. So I've kind of had a bit of a revision of some of those tracks, and Invisible String is one that stands out to me. Had that been said though, Lavender Haze is one of my favourite Taylor songs. I think it's great. Love the mechanical drum pattern. It sounds really cool. The falsetto on the chorus, she's really like committing to those high notes, and she sounds great doing that too. So while I don't really like Midnights that much, I actually do think Lavender Haze is fantastic. Also want to mention 2 tracks from Red. See, the Red bias is seeping in. I do think Red is very good, and the main tracks I want to mention are Red, the title track, love that, and The Last Time with Gary Lightbody, who is a bit of an unexpected collaboration really, but I think it works really well. I think the song sounds really huge and large and massive, and the way it kind of crescendos is great as well. And yeah, of course, Red I think is just a really great little kind of country rock tune from the album as well. Less country, maybe more so rock, kind of going through the colours in a pretty cool way. It's not the most, you know, outlandish songwriting you've ever heard, but I think it's still really good. And the last honourable mention I want to mention, that didn't quite make the list for me personally, is Wildest Dreams, another 1989 cut. This is basically like the best song Lana Del Rey never made. Like, it's got that kind of dreaminess to it. It sounds like something that would really fit onto a Lana Del Rey album. And of course we know they are friends in real life, and I think Lana has had a hand in influencing some of Taylor's style. I think you can't look any further than this song to find that influence, because it's so obviously clear. And yeah, those are my 5 honourable mentions. We may as well talk about number 1 now, which I think may surprise literally everybody, because sometimes with my top 10 songs I always say this, the obvious song is my favourite, but other times a completely out of nowhere, out of the blue song ends up being my favourite. Taylor Swift is the latter here. It is a song that I don't think you'll be able to guess in a million years. And I don't know why. I don't know why. Nobody values this song seemingly as much as I do. I'm not saying it has to be your favourite, it has to be the best. I would never say that. But why is this never on any of her top 10 lists? Because this song is wonderful. This is amazing to me, and I've always been so taken aback by it. It's so humble, it's so grounded, it's not trying to be anything but just, you know, frank and upfront and direct, and I think it's fantastic. Of course, it still has some of the qualities you'd expect from a Taylor Swift song. You know, of course, there's references to relationships, naturally. The instrumentation, particularly from the Red era, you know, it is very kind of acoustic driven. But yeah, I just think it's really taking simplicity to kind of like its extreme and just nailing it perfectly. And I just absolutely, every single time I hear it, I'm just so warmed by it. I think the writing is really honest, it's earnest. Her delivery as well, I think, is really great on here too. Yeah, I just think it's the best song. I don't know, it's just always been one that stood out to me as being above the rest. Yeah, it's close to State of Grace, admittedly, but I think it's really one song that she should never forget, because whilst all of her other songs go into the details and fixate on those kind of breakup things that go on, this song kind of feels a bit more revelationary. It kind of feels a little bit more her kind of looking at herself a bit more, her own mistakes, and it's not necessarily just about how somebody has done her wrong. And it's kind of the realization as well that after a breakup, she gets onto another day and that time's passed, and it's kind of those insecurities that build up, get going, you know, meeting someone new, and then kind of just sitting there thinking, oh man, we're doing this all over again. It started again, You know, all I seem to experience is these breakups, you know, for the last 8 months. Yeah, I think all of relationships are just breakups and sadness and that kind of thing. And it's kind of like her just kind of coming to terms with that. And to say this was written in like 2011, you know, looking now at the trajectory of her career, like you can kind of see that, yeah, this song kind of sets the tone for that, because it's like her now sort of, I just like this style of reflective songwriting. The most recent Jason Isbell album is full of it as well, where he's just reflecting on his own life and the things he's done. I think this song kind of taps into that a little bit as well, while also being just, you know, picking out those details as well, where like, you know, he's laughing at the jokes that nobody else ever laughed at and that kind of thing. It's just kind of like sitting there and looking at a date or a, you know, a relationship about to blossom, kind of like from the outside looking in and seeing it happen and seeing you be there. I think it's a really great song. Yeah, the instrumentation, the production, I think is lovely as well. Just my favorite Taylor Swift song. And yeah, hopefully I explained it in a way that makes sense and you can see why it's my favorite one. But that is it from me. This is the list. This is my top 10 best Taylor Swift song. If you disagree vehemently, let me know in the comments. If you agree wholeheartedly, let me know in the comments too. Definitely love to see more people stick around, so make sure you subscribe as well. Check out my Patreon, as I've already said at the start. Would love to see more people over on there. Shout out to the people that support me on there as well. They are amazing. Do make sure you subscribe at the very least to this channel, and like I say, share the video around too. Have a good day. Hopefully you've enjoyed my explanations and my reasoning for this one. Goodbye.